Let me talk to you about why I'm so passionate and fired up about children and cereal. It is a tragedy, it is criminal what is going on there. You go to the grocery store, a little child's walking through, and right on their eyesight, right at their level, they see little cartoon characters on these cereal boxes. These cereals are absolute and utter trash garbage.
Know that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Yeah.
Let's just start with Cheerios because it's the most popular cereal and it's in the news right now. Let's look at the ingredients in cereal. The first ingredient, whole grain oats. Well, that sounds healthy, that sounds wholesome, that sounds great. What are whole grain oats? First of all, these aren't whole grain oats because they pulverize them into basically like a flour. There was some nutrition in them. There's no more in the process of turning these whole grain oats into a shelf-stable cereal. But what are whole grain oats? They're starch. And what happens in starch when you put it in your body? It turns into glucose, sugar. So the first ingredient is basically, once you break it down, sugar. The second ingredient, corn starch. Well, there we go. I just said oats are starch. Starch breaks down into sugar. Corn starch, you got more sugar. So ingredient 1 is basically sugar. Ingredient 2 is basically sugar. Let's look at ingredient 3. Ingredient 3 is sugar. So you have sugar, sugar, and sugar. But it's so good for you and it's so good for the kids. So what are we doing to these kids, these children? We're giving them sugar. Sugar causes inflammation. Sugar causes the blood sugar to rise and fall. Sugar leads to poor metabolic health. Sugar, if taken long enough for years and years and decades, can lead to cancer. I interviewed Professor Seafried, and I learned that most cancers are caused from mitochondria misfunction from chronic inflammation.
That's why Albert Schweitzer, the great humanitarian physician, looked at 40,000 people in the African. He never saw a cancer in any of these patients. So he said, well, what's going on? Why these Africans don't get cancer? Why the Inuits never? Now the problem is the Inuits are loaded with cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. As soon as the Western diet comes in, highly processed carbohydrate foods put you in a state of inflammation. Inflammation damages respiration. So chronic inflammation can damage respiration in a population of cells in some tissue, eliciting cancer. We have an obesity epidemic. In fact, obesity is now replacing smoking as a number one risk factor for cancer, right? So what's going on with all that? Diet and lifestyle. It's all diet and lifestyle. So you're not exercising, you're eating horrible foods, putting yourself in an obese state, inflammation, and that puts you at risk for all kinds of different cancers.
Before I started the proper human diet, oh boy, I had chronic inflammation from the foods I was eating. Sugars are highly inflammatory. Seed oils, all this processed garbage is highly inflammatory. Then people look on the box and they're like, oh, it's got all these vitamins in it. It's so good for you. It's garbage. All of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that were in those oats are completely pulverized, and then they're cooked so that the cereal can be made shelf stable and it can survive on a shelf for years and years. You can still eat it later. It destroys any of the nutrients that was in there, but it's okay because they fortify it. They add synthetic fake vitamins back in after the fact. Most of these vitamins that are added in after the fact, they're not even soluble. Your body can't even absorb them. They're not even bioavailable, soluble, whatever you want to say. They don't uptake into the body like they would if they were in their natural, proper state. It's a complete joke. We're giving them sugar, 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 which leads to type 2 diabetes. Let's talk about kids and type 2 diabetes. When I grew up, if I went to the doctor and I had type 2 diabetes, my doctor would have been like, whoa, like let's triple check this. This is crazy. We don't see children with type 2 diabetes like this. Nowadays, what do you see? It's rampant. So many children have type 2 diabetes right now. We're poisoning these little kids with sugar and getting them addicted from a young age, creating poor metabolic health, creating inflammation.
Inflammation, and that puts you at risk for all kinds of different cancers.
Creating brain fog and fatigue. These poor kids are trying to go to school and they can't keep up with their peers. Why are they having these temper tantrums? Because they're high on an addictive drug that we've normalized. They're high on sugar. They can't fall asleep, they have sugar. Their blood sugars are going up and down throughout the day. But we have normalized sugar and everyone's just like, it's just fine, that's the way it's always been. You go to grandma, she gives you sugar, Halloween sugar, it's their birthday, give them birthday cake with sugar on it, it's normal. Explain to me in the comments right now how sugar is any different than any drug out there. We're taking it for pleasure. It's highly addictive. It lights up the brain on an MRI, just like if you're taking cocaine. Now, if we were giving kids cocaine, that would be insane. But not if we were doing it their entire lives like we are with sugar. It would just be normal. We have these horrible social norms in society that drive me absolutely insane. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it always is. You look around in humanity right now, and we are so sick and declining. And people are just like, it's just fine. Cancer rates amongst adults under 50 are going through the roof. Type 2 diabetes, we already mentioned. 70% of Americans are overweight. 70%. Go back and watch the news from like the 1970s where they were outside like a movie theater for a Star Wars premiere. You'd see 1 or 2 fat guys. Now 7 out of 10 of them are overweight. If you have poor metabolic health, you are 6 times more likely to suffer heart disease than if your cholesterol numbers are off. But the only thing the whole world is still brainwashed about is, oh, what about your cholesterol? I tell them I'm eating the proper human diet. I'm eating meat and eggs. I'm eating one ingredient, proper foods that humans have literally been eating since the start of time, as Dr. Berry said when I interviewed him.
We have been eating red meat as a human species for exactly the same number of days as we've been drinking water and breathing air.
And people are worried about that, and they're just fine eating this cereal. Let's keep going on the cereal though. We just talked about the ingredients. So with all of those ingredients, right there alone, why would I be giving that to a child? Why would I be getting a child hooked on sugar? The first 3 ingredients, sugar, sugar, sugar. Why would I do that? What is that giving the child? Why don't I just go make the kids some scrambled eggs? Well, you can't unring this bell and you can't unhear this right now. This stuff is horrible for them. We're getting them hooked on sugar and we shouldn't be doing it. And if it takes me 5 minutes to make some scrambled eggs and I don't have 5 minutes to give to my daughter Lily to make her scrambled eggs, then I shouldn't have had children in the first place. If the convenience of giving them cereal, despite these horrible side effects that are coming from this both now and in their future, then I shouldn't have had kids in the first place. Now, we just talked about the ingredients. Let's get going with what else. When I interviewed Dr. Ken Berry, he's talking about
Every single time you eat a bowl of cereal, you're eating glyphosate.
Yeah.
100% of the time.
you're eating glyphosate. Glyphosate, Roundup, weed killer. It's everywhere.
Glyphosate's everywhere. Glyphosate's in 85% of the rainfall. It's in 85% of the air we breathe. It's in every water river system in the world. It's simply in your daily life. Glyphosate everywhere is the real underpinnings of the chronic disease epidemic we sit in, from lymphomas, leukemias, and the like, all the way to bladder cancer, thyroid cancer, liver cancers, all of those directly related to the amount of Roundup residues within our food and water systems. We're pouring about 4 billion pounds of this stuff into the global soils every year. It's an astonishing amount of toxicity. And for the action of that chemical, we're sterilizing the soils of the earth, but also the soil within our gut.
And it's in cereal, in particular Cheerios. The fact that there are a lot of amounts is insane to me. In my mind, is a slow poison okay? What if there's just 1% glyphosate in it? What if there's 1/10 of 1%? How about if there's 0? I will eat 0. Is there so much benefit to these Cheerios that I'm willing to poison myself with glyphosate? There's glyphosate in the cereal, and you're okay giving that to your kids. I'm speaking to my former self again. If I could go back.
If I could go back in time to my 35-year-old self,
Yeah.
and so I would literally say, dumbass, stop.
I would wring my neck and say, what are you giving them that poison for? You're giving them sugar, 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 laced with glyphosate. And they're getting hooked on it from a young age.
Might want to put that box of Cheerios back on the shelf if you're interested in your health. A staggering 4 out of 5 Americans are being exposed to a dangerous chemical linked to reduced fertility, altered fetal growth, and delayed puberty. Those chemicals are reportedly on a huge number of popular oat-based foods in America. So unfortunately, the latest example, Jessica, of our food supply literally being poisoned. We have so much processed food in America now that contains all of these chemicals that they claim are for shelf life stability, for the ability of these foods to be preserved for a longer period of time so they don't go bad as quickly. But it turns out that as we get more science on this topic, that a lot of these chemicals are obviously not good for our bodies. And I don't think it's any coincidence that we've seen a rise in chronic illnesses, in diabetes, obesity throughout our country as our food supply has gotten away from whole foods and more into these types of boxed, prepackaged goods.
I was doing some research about these Cheerios and it just drives me nuts. There's all of this hemming and hawing. Is it okay? Is it not okay? Yeah, but there's just a little bit in it, so it should be fine. My question is why? 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 Why are you even considering it? It's sugar, sugar, sugar filled with glyphosate and literally nothing you need. You could go eat some scrambled eggs and it's 1,000 times better. So if you're interested in learning more about our documentary, we still need more people to participate. We're looking for people with type 2 diabetes and fertility issues that are undertaking the proper human diet. We're following people over the course of a year. We've already filmed Bill Knott. We filmed Maggie, a rancher in Canada, 82 years old. She's been eating the proper human diet for 65 years. She will live to 120. I will bet everything on it. I'll bet everything on it. She's the most amazing individual I've met. Jeff DeProsperous, on a journey to be cancer-free, thriving, going through chemotherapy. The guy doesn't eat for 5 days in a row, and he has more energy, 100 times more energy than the average human on the standard American diet. Jeff is living his life to its fullest potential. It's incredibly inspiring. We're following around other individuals, and we're learning so much from all of these great doctors. I just interviewed Dr. Ken Berry.
Very often we don't research common sense.
And learned so much from him as well. We're putting it all in this documentary. It's completely crowdfunded. We're not sponsored by some company like Kellogg's or Beyond Meat. I want to just get the truth out there. That's all I care about is the truth. Now, if people start the proper human diet and they fail, you're going to see that. You're going to see the good, you're going to see the bad, you're going to see the truth. I'm very proud of the fact that we've raised a lot of money. We recently hit $100,000 on GoFundMe. It's so humbling. It's such a blessing. I'm so thankful because it's going to help the hopeless, but we need more to do this properly and to reach millions of people. I'm so proud of the fact that out of that $100,000, thousands of it is my own money, thousands of hours of my time as well. I am never taking a penny of any of that money. Every penny from those donations go 100% towards this documentary. We just recently purchased studio-grade lighting that we were renting when we filmed Dr. Ken Berry. We have our Netflix-approved cinema camera. We need to get another one. We have to film so many more individuals all around the world, so it's going to be expensive to do this properly. I hate asking for donations, but if you're interested in donating, if you're interested in helping the hopeless, that's the ultimate goal. I will assure you every penny you donate goes 100% towards this documentary and ultimately helping the hopeless. You can donate at donate.healinghumanity.movie. donate.healinghumanity.movie, and you can visit healinghumanity.movie. We're selling Healing Humanity shirts, Compassionate Carnivore shirts. We're selling Redmond salt shakers, water bottles, all of those purchases. If you super chat on my website, on YouTube, every single penny goes towards this documentary. I am confident this is going to change the world. It already is. It's inspiring people. It's changing the world. And I'm not going to stop until we reach millions of people. Thanks a lot for watching.